Hey everybody, it's Sha Blackburn, the Loon Witch here, and it is April 21st, 2021. So today is the third Thursday of the month, and it's time for our Recombobulation Station. Just a couple little housekeeping things. Why do we do the Recombobulation Station? What the heck is it? A Recombobulation Station is a time that I ask you to reserve for yourself once a month. I do it on the third Thursday of each month. It goes live at 7 p.m. I say live, but I'm recording it actually earlier in the day and sometimes recording it a couple of days prior to, depending on my own schedule. And I ask you to block off an hour. Each video is only about 15-20 minutes. So it's just a topic, something for you to think about, something for you to ponder, something for you to learn, maybe. Depends on what's going on in my life. If you are interested in some particular topic that relates to wellness, well-being, spirituality, feel free to send me a comment and I'll look into it. If it's something that I know about and can share, I'm happy to do it. So today, as per the usual, I'm coming to you from the Enchanted Forest Spiritual Wellness Center in Rainham, Massachusetts. And this is my home away from home. It's where I've worked both my corporate job and my own business for the last 3 years. And for the majority of that time, due to COVID, we've been working from home remotely. So I've been here about 6 days a week. It's great. I love it. I love it here. Anyway, today's topic is letter writing. Now, I'm sure some of you are surprised, and for those of you who know me that are watching this, you're absolutely not surprised at all. I am a letter writer. I love to write letters to people. I love to receive letters from people. So that's a hint. If you want to write me a letter. I prefer letters over emails and texts. And one of the things I want to talk about, just like why I like and enjoy writing letters to people. And one of the reasons that I really enjoy it is because for me, the act of writing a letter calms my mind. It quiets me down. It makes me feel reconnected to myself. It's my recombobulation, right? So when I feel kind of out of sorts, I'm also a journaler, and a couple of years ago I had taught a little class through Staples on the joy of journaling or the art of journaling. I forget what they call it. But you can probably still find it on their website. They do have some classes, webinars, and things like that that are free for people to attend. And I had a really great time sharing some of my journaling with people, and sharing some of my thoughts about it. But I've always really enjoyed just writing things by hand. I still take notes by hand. I prefer it. Even using the iPad, I have the iPencil, and my preferred computer is my Surface, my Windows Surface Pro. And of course that comes with a little pencil as well. So yeah, I get a little geeked out about stationery, pens, pencils, electronic equipment that simulates using paper and pen. Really enjoy going to the stationery store. So, if you don't know me, there's some insight into who I am. And the photo that you'll see both at the beginning and the end of this video are letters that I'm actually putting in the mail today. So I'm looking over at them because there's 4 of them that are ready to go, and 1 that I'm just going to finish up and probably pop that one in the mail tomorrow. I buy forever stamps, and I love that you can get so many different unique forever stamps. So every year I buy the Chinese New Year or the Lunar New Year stamps because they always relate to whatever the Chinese zodiac is for that Lunar New Year. And there's like little information from the post office about it. The stamps are really cool. And as a keepsake, I'll take one and I'll put it in my date book on the Lunar New Year date. So it's kind of cool. And then sometimes I'll get like the Christmas stamps, I get holiday stamps. And so for the winter solstice or on Christmas, I'll put one of those stamps into my date book. And it's just a nice little keepsake, you know. It's something that marks the occasion in my journal or my date book. It's something that I can go back because I keep them. You know, I write notes in them. I keep track of my clients in them. I keep track of my budget in my in my date book. You know, so I constantly am going back and forth referring to it, and it's just something really neat to go back and see that stamp that I bought a book of, and they have a lot of really interesting stamps out there. They've got old the WPA posters, race cars, like old race cars, and antique pickup trucks and things like that. So there's a stamp. There's probably as many stamps as there are occasions to write a letter. The other thing about writing letters, and I write in cursive, so if I'm going to write you a letter and I don't know you, I may ask if you're able to read cursive, because I know that they don't really teach it in school anymore, but I prefer to write cursive. And I understand from when I was young, and my grandfather, he had, I don't know if he had Alzheimer's or dementia or what, but he had Parkinson's and was very, very forgetful. Ultimately was in a rest home, and he didn't remember that my dad was his son, and he didn't remember that I was his granddaughter. So that was sad. And I remember asking the nurses in the rest home what I could do to prevent myself from losing my memory, because I had seen it happen to other older relatives also, and I didn't want to forget. I didn't want to forget my friends and family and people that I cared about. So one of the nurses had said to me that there are great cognitive benefits to writing in cursive. And it just so happens that I love to write in cursive even when I was young. So and I'm a note taker. So I was a note taker all my life. I've been a note taker. I have tons and tons of, here's, just reach over, there's some sticky notes. I have tons of sticky notes, and I have tons of notepads, and I know all you people that know me that are watching this are cracking yourselves up right now. I'm notorious for writing ideas on Post-its and sticking them all over the place, or just leaving the Post-it pad together, and then I'll be like, where was that idea for a class, or where was that idea for a spell, or where was that idea for something else? And sure enough, it's on a Post-it note someplace. So I need to get a little more focused on how I take my notes. But in my corporate job, I write notes on Post-its, and I tack them up in my desk area, you know, in my little cubicles, so that when the job is done, I can just pull it down, kind of like a short order cook, right? When it's done, I can just pull that note down, crumple it up, and throw it away. And then that too is a refreshing feeling of like, it's one thing off my list. Back to letter writing though. How many of you still write letters? How many of you remember the last time you got a personal letter? I can tell you the last time I got a personal letter. The last time I got a personal letter was Monday. And I'm responding to it today. So it's not an immediate turnaround. It's not like a text message or an email, right? You have to sit and wait for the news to come. But when you get a letter in the mail and it's not a bill and it's not an advertisement, it's just, hey, here's what's going on in my life. It's such a joy, it's such a treasure to receive that and then just sit and enjoy reading the letter. I do like to share my letters. Sometimes I'll read letters out loud to my friends or my family, especially if it's something that I think is really funny or a great story that I want to share. And it's a nice way to start conversations and build conversations with your family. In fact, I write letters to my mom and my dad and my son, and we all live on the same street. My mom used to crack up when she would get a letter from me instead through the mail instead of me just walking down the street to hand it to her. And I do obviously spend quite a bit of time with my partner, and he's in a different state, so I still write letters home, if you will, but I write letters to him as well and stick them in the mailbox outside of his house with a stamp, put the flag up, and send it off on its way. Because there's really something special about receiving that letter. And I'm sure if you've gotten a letter recently or you don't remember the last time you got a letter, you know, maybe you're feeling some nostalgia right now. But I found an article and I wanted to share the article with you because I've always felt like writing letters is very therapeutic, and I've always felt like keeping a journal is very therapeutic. I actually keep two journals, one for the memories that I want to keep and one for the memories or things that I need to work through and get rid of. We'll do another maybe recombobulation station on journals. We'll see. We'll see. So I found this article anyway, and I'm just going to pull it up really quick so I can read it to you. But writing letters can increase your happiness. Writing a letter by hand is linked to significant mental health benefits. So writing a letter, you are able to work through a thought process. You're able to work through a problem. You're able to look back on it and see how you really feel about a situation. You're able to understand a little more insight into yourself, right? And it is something that you can do just for you. So here's like the top 5 reasons to write a letter. Reason number 1, it helps to develop a strong sense of accomplishment. Writing a letter is far more thoughtful way to communicate with someone than engaging in digital communication, right? And I have said this myself many, many times. When you are writing a letter, you're much more mindful, right? You're clacking away on the keyboard and you're just typing and you're like, this is terrible, blah, 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 blah. It's such a quick response. And don't we all think that we need that response immediately? We need that gratification instantly, and letter writing just isn't gonna, it's not gonna give you any instant gratification, but it is gonna put you in a more mindful state. It is gonna help you to understand what you're saying to somebody else and how you're communicating. It's interesting. If you've not written a letter in a long time, I encourage you to try. Number 2, it increases clarity and gives us a new perspective. So physically writing out the ideas in our head helps to increase our clarity too. Letter writing can be a purifying exercise to help you get the clarity about how you feel about a situation or someone, release negative feelings or thoughts, and meaningfully prepare for a conversation with a loved one. And that is all true. What I'm going to do, this article is from Real Simple magazine, but I will put a link to the article in the comments or in the description of this video. So you can go and read the entire thing yourself, okay? Number 3, it fosters connections and deepens relationships. Letter writing is tied to our hearts through our inherent drive for social bonds. And let's see, the thoughtful effort invested into physically writing, addressing, and mailing a letter helps the recipient feel special and appreciated. Number 4, it creates serendipity and joy for the sender and the receiver. When someone receives a letter, it's a moment of serendipity. Even your own anticipation of your letter arriving in the mail for your recipient will boost your happiness. Letter writing nurtures a platform for creativity and compassion. And like compassion, it's not only good for the recipient, but also good for ourselves. Number 5, gratitude letters have a direct correlation to happiness. So that's specifically about thank you letters, right? Sending somebody a thank you note. It's not a common practice anymore, I have to say. And it's sad that that has kind of gone by. You know, I don't want a thank you email. Write me a letter. Now, you can go, there's still stationery stores, there's bookstores. You can go to the paper store, Barnes and Noble, your local bookstore. I love going into one of my local bookstores is Books on the Square in Providence. It's up in the College Hill area. And it's such a beautiful little store. They have a lot of local authors, and they have wonderful, wonderful, wonderful paper in there. Up in Dedham, there is the Paper Source, and they are chock filled with all kinds of pens and all kinds of stationery and notebooks. And I could just go in there and spend 6 to 8 hours perusing and testing all the pens out. But take the time, write a letter. When I was in China, a few of the times that I was in China, we would go into the Cat Cafe in Haiyang, China, up in the Shandong province. We'd go in there, and it's a stationery store, so they have all kinds of different stationery and pens and ink and markers and washi tape and all kinds of cool things for journaling, writing letters. And a lot of people would write letters to their future self. And I thought that that was really interesting because I had never done that before. So what I decided to do then, and it was the last time that I was in China, so it was in 2020, January of 2020 was the last time I was there, and I wrote a letter to my future self, and you're able to put it up, and you can go get it later on. So the letter that I wrote to my future self is for the year 2024, and I wonder if I will be able to get it. I wonder if I'll be able to go back to China and if I'll be able to retrieve that letter and see what I had written. Because when I was in China, COVID wasn't a thing yet. It was just, they were just starting to kind of talk about it. And when I came home, it had become a little thing. And then it quickly became a very large thing. And then here we are today. So I've not traveled overseas. My company is not sending people overseas like they once did. I used to go 1 or 2 times a year and haven't been since January of 2020. So I'm hoping it's nice to write a letter to your future self and put it up someplace, right? You can't send it through the mail because if you send it through the mail, it's going to be there in a couple of days. And you're going to be like, oh, I wonder what I said. But you can seal it, and you can maybe put it on your fridge and say, open on such and such a day. And it becomes kind of like a time capsule, a way to encourage yourself, a way to make peace with yourself, a way to check in with your future self, right? And so I think it's kind of cool, the idea of writing a letter to your future self. My mom always complains when she writes letters to me, they're very brief, but she always complains that she doesn't know what to write about. So sometimes I will give her prompts of what I'd like to know, you know. And in my most recent letter to her, I found a card that's quilled, and quilling is the art of rolling paper really finely into different shapes and creating. I wish I had a quilled card. Looking. I don't have one close enough to show you. I do. I do have one close enough to show you. Hold on. This is a quilled card. So you can see the loon and the baby loons and the reeds. They're all 3-dimensional. Let me zoom in, and by zoom in I mean move it really close. So see how that's all twirled up paper in there. It's amazing, right? So quilling involves using strips of paper that are rolled, shaped, and glued together to create decorative designs. There's a company called Poppin Cards, Poppin cards.com. You can, that's where I got this. I think they're on Etsy, but they have a website, so you can probably get it through their website. And you can just look up quilled cards. They're so amazing. So I found a quilled card in a bookstore in Barrington, Rhode Island, called Barrington Books, and it was of a dollar horse. And my mom has had a dollar horse for years and years and years and years, and I used to play with it when I was little, and I remember asking her a million times where it came from. Um, and I still, from time to time, I don't know why, I still think about that little dollar horse every once in a while, and you know, I can see it so clearly in my mind's eye. Well, I found this card. It's a quilled card, and it's got a dollar horse on it. So I wrote my mom a letter, and I said, "Hey, when you write me back, could you tell me the story of your dollar horse and how you got it and where it came from and all of those things?" And hopefully she will. Most of the time when I ask her a question or I ask her to write something specific, she will. And if you are struggling to write a letter, because she will say to me, "I don't know how you find all these things to write about." If you're struggling for a topic, you don't need to struggle. What did you do today? There's your topic, you know. I will probably write a letter later on today, tomorrow, and I'll talk about how I did a video about letter writing. So when you get that letter, you'll know that it was from today. But I'll talk about just the current events, what's going on in my life, how my son is, what the weather is. The first couple months of COVID in 2020, back in March, I was staying with my partner, and it rained and rained and rained and rained and rained. And where he lives, he's surrounded by water. And the water from the little swamp across the street started coming up onto the street and creeping into the driveway. So I wrote about, "It's raining again today. I think the swamp is trying to take over the driveway." And it's just things like that, you know. Did you go out and watch the is it the Leonids? You know, did you go watch those? Well, if you did, write about that. You know, there's so many things that you can write about. Write about a song that got stuck in your head and what that song means to you and why it's important to you. So those are some ideas. I hope that you will take the rest of the time to write a letter. It doesn't have to be on fancy stationery. It can be on just scrap paper and regular envelopes. It doesn't have to be all super fancy. Once you start, you might find you really enjoy it. And if you would like to get a personalized letter from me, you can send me an email with your name and address, and I will write to you. It might take me a little while, but I'll do it. All right. Well, I hope that you found this as entertaining as I have, and I encourage you to write some letters, and I hope that you will write some letters going forward. And if you would like to write a letter to me, you can send me an email with your address, and I'll write to you first, and you can write me back. All right? I will see you all very soon, and until then, be well.